I want to tell you about the worst therapist I ever had. How bad was he? Well, every single session, without fail, as I was talking about the death of my dad, this man would open his mouth and release the most catastrophic yawn I have ever witnessed in my life. Like a lion, not a polite little excuse me yawn. This was a full, jaw unhinged, I have seen too much of this guy's boring shit yawn. Mid sentence, mid thought. Sometimes, right as I was saying something I had never said out loud to anyone, he would go, and I just kept going every week, kept booking the sessions, kept showing up. Why? We'll get to that. When my dad died, finding a therapist felt like climbing a mountain. I don't mean that metaphorically, I mean the actual process. Booking the first session, saying to myself and my wife, I need to see somebody, showing up for the first session, it all just felt enormous. It took everything I had. So when I finally got there, when I finally had someone to sit across from me, the idea of starting over felt impossible. Like I did the hard thing already. I found the guy. We're doing this now. But here's the irony. And I mean this sincerely, guys. One of the main things I needed to work on, one of the reasons I was there to see a therapist in the first place, was assertiveness. Standing up for myself, saying what I would actually think instead of just absorbing it all. And I could not bring myself to say to this man, hey, the yawning, can you maybe not? I'm not even a little bit joking. Here's what I think happens to a lot of men after they lose their dad. We finally get to a place where we admit we need to talk with somebody. And that's a big deal. But then we walk into a room with a stranger and we think, okay, I've done the vulnerable thing, showed up, that was the hard part. And if it's not working, the fit is off, if you're sitting there week after week thinking, this just isn't feeling right, the idea of leaving feels like failure. Failing again, maybe, on top of everything else you've already been carrying. So we stay, we adapt, we make it work, or we pretend we're making it work. Guys who have no problem walking out of a bad job or a bad relationship in 6 months will sit in a bad relationship with a therapist for 2, 3, 4 years because, hey, at least they're doing something. At least they can say they're going. But the first therapist you see is not a commitment. It's just a starting point. And the fit really matters, guys. It matters a lot. I'm not talking about credentials. I'm not talking about finding someone who specializes in grief or who uses a particular method or who has the right letters after their name. I'm talking about something simpler and harder to articulate. Do you feel like you can be honest in the room with them? Because that's the fuel that therapy runs on. It's not the therapist's technique, it's your honesty. And if something about the dynamic is making it harder to be honest, if you're performing okayness, if you're trying to win therapy, if you're editing yourself, or if you're sitting there managing how you come across, you're just burning the fuel on the wrong thing. I eventually left. It took longer than I should have. And when I found someone who was actually the right fit, the difference was immediate. Not because the new person was smarter or better trained, because I could just say the thing I was thinking in front of her without doing a calculation first. Like I no longer had to brake check and think, is she going to yawn at this? Which is sort of the whole thing. So if you're seeing someone and it feels sort of off right now, not painful or challenging, those are all parts of therapy. But if your gut is telling you this doesn't feel right, that's a signal and it's worth taking seriously. You're allowed to try someone else. You're allowed to say, I don't think this is working and start again. They're professionals. They know how to take it. And it's not quitting. You're actually doing the work. Losing your dad is one of the loneliest things that can happen to a man. It's not because nobody cares. It's because the specific weight of it, the specific way it reorganizes who you think you are in the world is hard to put into words. And most of us aren't great at trying to put it into words. But therapy at its best is a place where you actually try to put how you feel into words, where you can say the strange, uncomfortable, half formed things that are rattling around inside you. And somehow, through it all, you start to get clarity on what it all means. But it only works if the room is right. And if the first guy yawns at you, you should maybe leave. If this spoke to you, we have a podcast called Dead Dads. Every episode is a conversation just like this one. It's men talking honestly about what it's like to lose their dad and all the crap that comes after it. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts or follow here on YouTube. We put out new episodes every week, and we'd love to have you along for the rest of them.